Hello and welcome to another edition of Community Forum. My name is Joseph Feaster. I'm the host of the program. And as I tell you on each program, I always bring you important people in Stoughton who can bring you important information. And that's no different today. Now, if you want a copy of your marriage license, if you want a copy of a death certificate, if you want to get your animal control license, if you want to vote, well, we have a place where you can go for one-stop shopping, and that's to the town clerk's office. Now, I'm sure there's more things that they'll do, and we'll learn more about that because I have the head of that office as my guest today, our town clerk here in Stoughton, Stephanie Carrara. Stephanie, welcome to Community Forum.
Thank you, Joseph. Thank you for asking me. It's great to be here.
Well, congratulations. I know that the Board of Selectmen recently made the appointment of you as the permanent town clerk. But I want to go back, and because I always like people to know the person who is on here, because while many people may know you because you have been a Stoughton resident, and I think you're a Stoughtonite as well, you'll be able to tell them. But I know you and my good friend, your husband, my now selectman, will have been in Stoughton for many, many years. So why don't you tell our viewing audience a little bit about you, family. You can even talk about the dog if you like, if you have one. But why don't you tell us a little bit about you?
Well, my name is Stephanie Carrara. I grew up here in Stoughton. As you said, I am a Stoughtonite. I love the town. I'm married to Scott Carrara, our new selectman. Well, not new, but he's back. And, I grew up here and I love this town. I'm ensconced in it. I can't leave. I left once for like a couple of years, moved to Norwood, and I came back. It's my town. I love it. And I'm very, very proud to be the town clerk and represent this office.
Now, did you go to school here as well here in Stoughton?
Yeah, I graduated in 1983. I went to Newberry College and I went to Massasoit. I still go to school. I still take classes to keep myself up on different things. I have taken a break from schooling just because, I was the interim for 18 months and now I'm the permanent. So I really want to concentrate on this office, doing a lot of revamping. And we are looking for an assistant town clerk to take my previous position. And I'm going through the office, reorganizing it. I like to joke to say that in my desk, I found a receipt from 1987 that was signed by Gene Fleming. And the person's name on the receipt was my good friend, David Camacho. I think that was an omen. And so there's a lot of things in here that I want to change. It's not going to happen.
Well, we're getting a chance to talk about all of the specifics, all the things that you want to do. But I want to go back to, again, there's the starting point as to when you became interested in being one in the town clerk's office, which I know you've been in for about 12 years.
Yeah.
But when you decided that you wanted to pursue whatever the pathway was to become town clerk, let's talk about that for a minute. How did you come to the decision that you wanted to do that? I don't know if you had to take courses, that process. Why don't you explain that to our viewing audience?
Well, how I got involved in this was, I knew I wanted to work in this office when I first started here back in 1997. And it was difficult. I mean, I've worked in a lot of offices here in the town hall. I worked in the assessor's office, then I came to the clerk's office. And budget cuts happened. So I got to work for the zoning board for 10 years. And then I got to come back to the office. And I always loved it and wanted to be a town clerk. And I didn't know if I had what it took. And I have to say, Joseph, when you were our town manager, our interim town manager, you and I had a nice talk and you said to me, go for it. You said you would be a great town clerk. You have what it takes. You kind of gave me that little push that I needed. Family tells you, oh yeah, you're great or whatever, but you saw my work ethic, you saw my kindness to people and that I knew what I could do. And when we had that talk in your office, you kind of just gave me that push. And after the town clerk, Cheryl Mooney, gave her notice, I was able to go to clerk school and proceed and get my CMC, which I have. And I went further and got my Master Municipal Clerk certificate, which is very hard to get. And I'm number 25 in the state to get that out of the 351. So I'm very proud of that. And I still take courses to keep my accreditation up. It's a little different.
Well, that's,
now.
that's admirable that you went on to get that. And I'm glad that I had a small part to influence you to pursue it, because sometimes that's what it takes. You're not sure what you can do. The opportunity presents itself and you try to take advantage of it. So you did. And you can see success can come from having, taking that initiative.
Yeah.
So now that you are here, you've been in the interim position for a period of time, recently voted by the Board of Selectmen and now you have a contract with the town. What are some of the things over that time frame that you see that you would want to change, implement, modernize? What are some of the things you would like to do, Stephanie?
After the special town election that we're having June 22nd for the Board of Selectmen, because Christine Howe resigned, we have a spot open. So after that election, we're going to go full bore into the office. And one of the major things that I'm going to be starting to work on, which I've kind of started to do that now, is our web page. I say I'm going to do the destruction of it and then restructure it. I want to get more things up online so that people can pay for things, such as, by credit card, like if you need a birth, death, or marriage certificate, a copy of that. I also want to put online that if you need a business certificate, that you can pay that for that online. And by law, we're required to put campaign finance information up there. So I will be having someone scan all that information in so we can have a link. So let's say we'll use my husband, for example. He's been a selectman previously and he's been a selectman now. You have to put in reports if you spent any money. And if people want to look at what he did or where he bought his signs, you'll be able to click on under campaign finance, his information, and look at it as you would with everybody else. And that's really important because I, believe it or not, have that information audited every couple of years. I request that myself because one, it keeps me on my toes to make sure that I have everything that is required by state law. And if I don't have it, I can contact the candidate and say, look, you got to file this amendment to go with your finance report. And it lets the candidates know that I have transparency in my office. And that to me is the most important thing, is transparency. I want people to feel confident in me.
Well, that's a very, very important. I think in terms of when you're in government service, that's what you want. You want the transparency. You want the citizens to feel confident that when their tax dollars are being spent well and that they can get information and they have access to the persons who are in authority. But one other area I just wanted to explore with you is, are there records that you have to maintain? For instance, would your office have the information of persons who have served in government positions over the years, or served on commissions for over the years, or who served as town managers or interim town manager, or any position? Would that be something which would be found in your office, or do we have to go to the Historical Society?
No, that can be found in my office. It hasn't been updated by previous management, but I will be updating what they call the boards and commission list. That has a listing of every board, every committee member that we have, what their term is, and what committee that they're on or a board. And every year that needs to be updated. And then people can come onto the website, click boards and commission, and all the information would be there. Then I would, each year I could give that information to the town manager's secretary so they could put together the annual town report. So that information would be there, and that's historic. And what I do with the town reports is every couple of years, I take like 3 of those reports and I get them bound because those are permanent records. Another thing that I want to do on the website is I want to have scan in like minutes so that if people want to see the minutes from my webpage, they can go to other, Board of Selectmen or, if they want to see zoning minutes, they can go to those websites. But I also want to have it on mine so that people can just click on it and see everything. That's a project that I want will come further down the line, because it's a big project, scanning and everything, having it up online. But I also, people have to realize that in the clerk's office, paper is the record, not what's on the computer, because it can be altered. And you don't want that. You don't want to have that worry, like, oh, did he really say that? So we can bring out the paper that we have in our archives and say, okay, on, April 3rd of 1972, this was said and this was voted on. And I do have to go back in those records to look up different items. And I will say, I know that this is a hot button topic, is the fire department. Yeah, so I have had to research things, and they have been looking for a fire station since 1969. So
I'm just going to tell Roy that we can hear him. So in terms of, I don't want his private conversation to be part of our recording today, but I just will alert him. He's a great executive producer, but we've had those Mike stories already in the news. So I'm going to save him here. So let me just be clear, so I understand this. So the historical aspects of service in the town is maintained in your office.
Correct.
I am not just the current. It's the historical. So you can go back to the town was founded in 17. I forgot the exact date, but I know we're the first.
26.
That's right. Because I know Sharon and all of them were created out of us here in Stoughton, even from, we went all the way up to Dorchester and Boston. So, I do recall some of the history that was studied at that particular point in time. So that's great to know that you have that. And I don't think that a lot of people did know that that's maintained.
Every city and town clerk is the keeper of the records. Mm-hmm. So like I said, we can put whatever is necessary online, but we must maintain the paper, because the paper is the actual record. And so that is state law.
Well, let's talk about, I want you to walk first through, we touched upon, some things you'd like to see done. We talked somewhat about the historical documents that you have to maintain. Let's talk about, if one came into the town clerk's office, and now it's a matter, you probably have to make appointments to do so, but nonetheless, let's talk about that process in this time of COVID. But what can one obtain from the town clerk's office? Let's walk one through so people will know exactly, oh, wow, I didn't know the town clerk could provide that for me. Let's walk them through the services that you provide.
Okay, so let's start with marriages. People can make appointments to come in to fill out their marriage certificate. And we always say, come in, it's about a half hour, 45 minutes. We go over all the documents with them, the people fill it out, then we proofread everything with them. So we make sure that we know the exact spelling of things. Once, and then they have to wait the 3 days. Then they can pick up their marriage intention and go get married. And then what we do is, once we get it back, it's registered, and we have to send it to Boston, and we keep a copy of it. Wherever people file their intentions is where their certificate will be forever. So some people call us and they say, but I got married in Stoughton. And we say, where did you file the paperwork? Oh, I filed it in Easton. Okay, then you have to go to Easton to get it. And we keep the paperwork that they fill out, and it's bound. So that is a permanent record. Something like that does not get scanned on to a public site, because if one of the people getting married, party A or party B, and let's say one of their parents weren't married at the time of their birth, that is a restricted record. So birth, deaths, and marriages will not be on my website. You will have to order them, and then we will process them and give you a certified copy. So that's just something like that. As always, we do dogs. You don't need an appointment to come in to register your dog, and that because you're here such a short time. And then we are the election officials. So we run all elections, local, state, And then what happens is that we have the voting records, we have your signatory cards. So if we have a question, like let's say you have a scribble signature. I've been doing them so long. And I'm a townie. I know, oh, that's so and so, and they're like, "How'd you know?" I'm like, "Go look at the signatory card," and they're like, "Oh my god!" But you get used to that when you're in the office. The way I try to train my staff is I want to be a leader. I want them to know everything. I want to groom them so there's cross training. They know how to run elections. If God forbid something happened to me, or I know that the girls were nervous because the day before this past local election, I had a migraine and I had to stay home. And they were like, "Where are you?" My phone, was right beside me, but they handled it wonderfully. And I was in the next day. But we are the election officials, keeper of the records. City and town clerks, we're the hub. A wise man once said, "The town clerk's office is the hub. We don't run the town, we make the town run." And you come to us for everything, and people do, and we service everybody. I keep the minutes of all meetings. I maintain the records for annual town meetings, special town meetings. The town clerk's office is very, very detailed, and my background is being a paralegal. So I'm very, very detailed, very organized, and I try to instill that in my staff. I mean, I just gave you an example of marriages. When you run an election, you need the poll workers. They have to be trained. You have to maintain the voting list for so many years. You have to send your totals to the state elections division. All that is my office.
Well, let's talk about, because I think for majority of persons, if they don't participate, they at least are aware of the elections aspects of what your job is as town clerk. And let's talk about that. We are now in the throes. I mean, when you were talking about knowing the signatures, I guess they could use you in Arizona right now. Since they're going through that checking of that in Arizona. So maybe we need to fly you out there after, I got to ask my good friend Scott whether that would be permissible though. But let's talk about it. We now have many locations that we use for the precincts. And, again, in this time of COVID, trying to get people, there's still that concern. I know I voted in the past election, and I voted Gibbons, because I'm in precinct 4, but times have changed, and I know there was some sense of consolidating some sites into just for that type of control and management and things, and having sufficient people as poll workers. What is your thinking now in this? I call it the age of COVID, as to what might be something that might be advisable as far as the election process.
Hopefully, COVID will eventually go away. What I have now, the precincts are all at the elementary schools and at the, as I would call it, the junior high, but it is the middle school. And I have people that are willing to work for me, that are willing to wipe down the booths, wipe down the pens, make sure everything is sanitized for the next voter to go into the voting booth. We have social distancing, we mark the floors. Eventually, when COVID goes away, I want to do a charter change to have the precincts all consolidated and have it at the new high school, because the high school can hold, gym can hold 1,300 people. By having it in one location, and I would work with the schools on this. I did talk to Dr. Marcus about this last year when we had, 2020 was just an intense year for elections. And I had started to talk to him about this, like how do I want to consolidate. I'd like to use the high school. I want to work with the high school to see, like, if they have a teacher professional day and we have a local election, can they schedule it on that day so that the schools wouldn't be open, it would just be open to the voters. But it's getting harder and harder, I feel, to get poll workers. It's a long day. And some people love it. Some people are like, "Steph, can we do part-time?" The advantage of having it in one location is that if I'm short a person, I'm going to be there. My assistant's going to be there. My staff here will still operate the office for to maintain if people need birth certificates, death certificates, if we have a question, hey, we don't have this voter, they could look it up online in the state computer. So eventually I would love to do a charter change to have it in one location, get it out of the elementary schools, make my citizens of Stoughton feel safe, because when we're in the elementary schools, I have to have a police officer now in the lobby and in the polling location, because police officers they have to be in the polling location. And there's some, like at the Gibbons, you might have saw this when you went in there, I had a police officer in the lobby to maintain that, no child could leave, or, leave with the wrong person. That's very much in my mind. I know that having it in the high school, parents could be worried about that, but it's a separate entrance. They wouldn't be going in the school. I could have a police officer like in the cafeteria area in case someone needed to go to the elevator if they were handicapped. Right now, these schools that were built, they were built a long time ago where things were not as prevalent as they are now. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Like handicap access. A person like I had to use a walker. I had surgery. I couldn't go upstairs. I had to find a way to go in to vote when I was using my walker when I had surgery. So being somewhat handicapped, I now see these deficiencies. We have it in the high school. They made accommodations for handicapped people. They made accommodations to have children be safe because they have a separate entrance. So that definitely is a goal of mine, to get that charter changed. It's not going to happen overnight, but that's really what I want to do for elections.
Well, let me explore that, because I'm a political guy. So I mean, I don't mind in terms of the rough and tumble of trying to initiate a process. Would it be how would you initiate that? And maybe I would just suggest that maybe to get the sense of the community would be to do some type of survey. I think, couldn't you permissibly, wouldn't you be able to at least test the attitudes in town? It seems to me that since we're not, geographically, we're not that big a town, that people couldn't get to a central place such as the high school in order to vote. It's not the inconvenience as if you had, say, for instance, in Boston with the 22 wards, you're trying to go from West Roxbury to, say, to City Hall. That's a hall.
Yeah.
There really is. That's not the case we have here. But again, some people may say, I don't want to because I can now walk to my my voting site. How would you go about trying to at least get the pulse of the citizens of Stoughton?
Well, I have started to do my research, and I know Sharon. I'm getting information from the town of Sharon on how they did it. Also, Easton has one location, and I've done some research, and I found a town, and I know it's on the other side of the public. People will be like, it's on the other side of the world, but Chelmsford. They had 8 precincts. Their town is about the size of ours, and they sent me all their information on how they presented it. So I have to work with the police department. My goal is to get a committee together. Do what you did, maybe do a survey monkey, put it out there, have a link so that people could put in their suggestions. Create a committee to go over that. You have you would have the police chief or a representative from the police department, fire department, some local citizens, retired principals, whoever I could get, maybe get a committee of like 7 or 8 people, sit down, see what the sense was, then have your presentation, create a presentation so you can present it to the school board and to the board of selectmen to say, okay, this is what we'd like to do. This is how it would be set up in the high school. Here's the traffic flow. Now, in this town, they did it this way. This town, they did it this way. And then you go from there. It's, like I said, it's not going to be instantaneous, but it is a huge goal of mine. And that's how I would present it. I mean, I'm just giving you a rough idea. When you have other people involved, they can tweak your ideas and present things that you're not even thinking of. And it's like, oh, okay, let's add that. So it's not like an overnight process, but the
Yeah, well,
first thing
that's the reason why I
yeah,
recommended a survey, because
yeah,
you would get a chance to distill all of the sentiments as far as that and get a lot of different viewpoints. And it may even alter, you may say, well, I need two sites,
right.
whatever
Yep.
it may come out to be that. But let's, one of the things you've talked about, I will come back to the elections, but I want to come back to some of your staff considerations as well. But for the moment, I want to talk about the participation in the electoral process, because last time I think it was 7% of the or less of the of those who are registered to vote, not even eligible to vote. We're talking about registered to vote. And over the years, I mean, I did those those programs with the elections with Jeffrey in the past, and I don't think we got much beyond 12%. What might your office do, or can you, and try to get educate folks on the electoral process, give them the notice, like you talk about special election in June. How many people know about it? How will you go about making sure that information is the Stoughton shopper adequate enough in order to do that? So what processes would you put in place at the town clerk's office?
Well, I want to advertise this. Everyone knows the local election, but for this one where it's special, I'm going to start advertising in like the middle of May. I want to make sure that reader boards have that information. I am going to advertise in the shopper. I am going to do a video like I've done in the past to tell people about voting. I'm going to put information out on my Facebook page, also the town's Facebook page, Twitter. So it's because a lot of people do social media. I'm going to have signs out like voting, coming up. And I want to do like a show like this when it gets a little closer to say, how maybe a half-hour show, how important it is to vote. This year, I know it was a low turnout, but I really think people didn't come out because of COVID. I really do. I think people are nervous to go in the schools, plus the kids were back. And, people were, I think, a little intimidated by the COVID. And I have to say, this race, in my opinion, was a nice, clean race. I've seen races that they are just absolutely nasty, and it's just like, stick to the facts. This race did that. It stuck to the facts. What candidates could do for the residents of the town of Stoughton, what their plans were. But I think COVID really, really killed it. So that's my plan to get the word out.
Well, I hope that we are successful. I so strongly believe in folks exercising their right to vote, to get registered, et cetera. So I think that wherever we can encourage folks in order to participate, we need to do so, because my thing is, if you don't vote, you don't complain,
Huge. That is
because you're
huge.
not in process. Folks serving on our boards and commission, I always say there's 50 people that run this town. I always said I want to be the 51st, but there's 50 people that run this town, and I see more and more people are serving on the boards and commissions, but I also see the same 50 people serving on that, be it town meeting or whatever. So I hope that folks will become involved and engaged in what's going on in the town.
I
For
see
sure.
new blood in town meeting, which is great. I can see younger people with young children getting into it. And I always tell people, 168 people, we have town meeting representatives. 168 people, they're saying where your money goes. People need to get involved. Even if you don't want to be on a board, attend a meeting. They have public comment. Get your voices heard. If you don't want to be on a board, I respect that. But if you want to know where your money's going, you've got to get involved some way, somehow. Let your voices be heard. I'm a firm believer, like you, Joseph, that if you don't vote, don't complain. Get out there. I mean, people die in other countries to have the right that we have, whether it's local or state elections. And that's really important.
Well, it's been evident that both you and my selectman, Scott Carrara, have done that I believe when I first came to town in 1998 and thereabouts, Scott was on the board, and I think he had served for somewhat like 9 years during that time frame. So he has definitely been there. I've seen him in town meeting. I've seen him. So again, that's the type of spirit. I served on town meeting for a number of years, but I don't have the personality to sit through a lot of the conversation that goes on. I want to be, get to the point, get in, get out, and be done. So maybe I'll come back at some point in time, but for the time being, we'll see how the process works under the new moderator as to how that can go forth. But let's come back to your office, because now you are the permanent town clerk. You have a contract with the town, like what was done for you in the sense of preparing you for the position you're now in. What are some of the things that you might suggest to assist someone who may want to ascend to your position when you decide to move on from within your staff? What type of staff things are you putting in place to better prepare your staff and educate them on what goes on in the town clerk's office?
Well, because of COVID, a lot of the classes are now Zoom or Google Meet. So I sign my staff up. I even sign myself up to keep fresh so that they can take the classes and listen to like the new election laws that are coming, because early voting I see coming fast and furious, that it's going to be for every election, including local. Right now it's not for local, but because of COVID, they're loosening their grip on no for the local elections. But I see it coming like a freight train. I also so we take these classes so that they have the handouts and they know, what's coming down the line. I do all cross training. So if, like, God forbid something happened to me, my senior clerk, Kelly, who's an amazing, amazing worker, she could run an election. As a matter of fact, this past election, even though I could run it, my husband was running. I wanted no part of it. I trained Kelly. She ran the election. We got town clerks from other towns, actually from all the helpers came from the North Shore except for two. I had them at the precincts so they could oversee everything. So there was no, like, I wanted it to be very transparent. And I had the town clerk from Randolph and Franklin here at night while Kelly did the tallying. I was in my office. They had a question, I could answer it. But other than that, I stayed out of it. I had a police officer watching so that so he could attest to there was no funny business with the tallying. But so I've trained my staff for that. We are now going to get hopefully an assistant town clerk in the near future, and I will train that person the same way. I have people, when I train people, as you know, I helped someone in our office who was no longer with us. She was a lovely woman, but I helped her. Like, nope, this is what you do. I believe that I should do the training because I'm the department head and I want my staff to be a well-oiled machine. And I send them to classes. They belong to Mass Town Clerks Association, the International Institute of Municipal Clerks, because if that's what they want to do, I want to groom them. I believe that I'm a leader. And when you are a leader, Joseph, you teach everything so that if the person ever wanted to go to a different city or town, they can. But I try to make it, a wonderful place to work so that they don't want to leave. That's what a leader does. A boss drives and takes the credit. I'm not like that. I am a leader. And that's very important. And my staff will tell you that. If they want to learn something, I teach them it. And if they're weak in something, I try to say, okay, no, let's just take our time. Let's do it this way, because I try to play to people's strengths, because I don't like, I've had bosses that drive and they're not, I'm very protective of my staff, and and I like that in a leader. And I've had bosses that they're just not like that. And they're all about keeping the work theirs. and not
Yeah, and
to.
not dealing with the people part and being supportive,
Correct.
you know, and
Correct.
that's something which you espouse. But I've raised this with from the town manager to every department head, because one of the issues, as you know, Stephanie, I've raised even when I was interim town manager, and that's the issue of diversity. And
Yep.
I've been concerned about that throughout the town, throughout the school department. And we just haven't made great strides. In fact, I think we are, are less than even when I was there. Is there an opportunity? Is that something which is you're going to herald in any of the appointments within the town clerk's office? I know that the town manager is the one who controls the hiring and for certain positions in the town, not yours, because that's one that's by the Board of Selectmen. But as far as the staffing piece with your input and all, that comes from the town manager. I know you said you have assistant clerk position open, but nonetheless, any thoughts about anywhere within your office that we might be able to look at diversity and inclusion?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, Joseph, because a lot of people don't know that my family is a rainbow. I have, and I say that, so I don't. I have a cousin who married someone from Kenya. I have another cousin who married someone from Egypt. So I mean, I have cousins that are married Latinos. So my family is I feel very diverse. I say this about diversity. I want everyone to apply for my job, and not my job, not yet, anyways, but my assistant job, because I want the best person in there. If the best person is of color, awesome. I like to say my office is like a family, and we would bring that person in and we would train them and they would be part of our family. I feel in my office, especially with my poll workers, I have an array of poll workers of all diversity, all religion, and I like that because I have it in my family. So whoever applies for the job, whoever is the best candidate, come on in, because I want the best for my office. And if that person is a person of color, then so be it.
Well, let me just offer this from the standpoint, and I do this. Like I said, I've interviewed a number of your colleagues, department heads, from the police to the fire to the, to you here at the town clerk. I didn't interview Robin recently, but I have done so with the town manager, and I have the superintendent of public works coming in. So I got my hit parade, and I raised this issue with them all. My recommendation is, where you do your outreach is going to be as important to get as you say, the persons who would be interested. If we just look within the Stoughton shopper, we only do here, we're not going to get that. No. So my only sense is where you do, as far as your outreach, may be able to increase the number of diverse candidates that may apply for the positions. And the other thing is, if you do it solely on the basis of if you've had to been in that position in order to get the job, since you haven't been in the job, you're not going to get the position. We have to look beyond, like you said, the skills. You went out and acquired the skills. So you may be looking at diverse skills that can be brought to a job rather than, oh, you had to be in that position someplace else. Because if you do that, you're not going to get any diverse candidates because they wouldn't have been in the positions.
And I believe when our HR department advertises, they put it on the Clerk Google group, all that stuff. But I also think that they put it on Indeed, LinkedIn, all the places that they had my job listed. That I believe that they put it on there, because I think that's only fair. I want the best candidate. You know what I mean? I do, because I want to be able to, if I have to go to a class or if I want to take a vacation, I want to be able to leave the office and know that I don't have to worry about it. I can shut my phone off. The person that is my second is going to be the person that can run the office and do all that. That's how I feel. And I would train. I've been asked this question before, and I want the best candidate. I don't care what color they are. I don't care what religion they are. They can do the job, and they're a team player, and they'll be part of the Clerk family. And I believe that.
Well, I welcome that and appreciate that. I just hope that we can increase diversity within the town. And I think that with particular efforts, want to see some things going forward. But as I look at your email, there are so many designations under your name, and I wanted to explore some of those. And again, let our viewing audience know what they are. I saw there's the New England Association of City and Town Clerk. There's the International Institute of Municipal Clerks, and of course, your the Massachusetts Justice of the Peace Association. Woo! So let's talk about it because I know that I saw a designation. You're going to be the fundraising chair of the 2022 conference for, I guess they call it maybe NEAC. I don't know how they
Yeah,
do the
that's correct.
acronym.
That's how we
Okay,
say.
so why
So,
don't you tell folks what that is, the New England Association of City and Town Clerks, and what your role will be as the fundraising chair for the 2022 conference?
well, for the 2022 conference, what it is all the New England states come this year. It'll be next year, and it'll be down the Cape, down at Chatham's Bars Inn. And what we do to fundraise is, pre-COVID, we used to have basket raffles. We would sell different things, have calendar raffles, all that kind of stuff. And what we do is we raise all that money, and it goes into the coffer, and we pay for the different things that comes along with having a conference. We make we buy bags or backpacks, and we fill it with all kinds of stuff with, joining the different associations. We give them all the information on that. And it's a good way to network. We take classes, and sometimes people say from New Hampshire might do something a little different that we do here. Their idea might be applicable to us, so we'll use it. And it's an education experience. And we have speakers, we take the classes, they give us handouts, and we break up into groups, and we work on different things. And it's an interesting group, and it's nice that you get to meet people from other states, and you learn from them. It sounds crazy, like, oh, well, New Hampshire does registration of cars, but okay, they do that, but they also do, elections. How do you guys handle, someone coming in that's not a registered voter? Do you let them vote provisional? So we learn from them, they learn from us. The International Institute of Municipal Clerks.
Well, before you move on, just tell them, how long does that conference usually run? I mean, customarily in the past, how many days did
it usually runs 3 days, 3 full days. And I usually go a day early to help set up all that kind of stuff. Where I'm the fundraising chair, I'll probably take the week and work on that, setting up everything. And other clerks assist us, like there might be, have different booths so people can learn about what NEMC is, which is the New England Municipal Clerks Association, and that why a clerk, whether elected or appointed, should be part of that group, and what's beneficial about it. And then you have people talk about that. And we set all this up. It's a 3-day seminar. Some people go early. Also, if you go early, there might be an Athenian class, and I am an Athenian fellow. I've taken 10 classes, and then at the IIMC conference, you get recognized, and you get what they call pinned. And now I can become a Athenian teacher, which is what I want to do. And what that is, you read books on leadership, on how, and then the books that you read, how are you going to apply it to your current position? And
so let's talk about the International Institute of Municipal Clerks, or IIMC. What is that? I know you mentioned about from the standpoint of becoming an instructor and from those Athenian books, but what is the IIMC?
The IIMC is like our President Congress group, and it has city and town clerks from all over the world. And they have an international conference. This year it's in Michigan, and clerks from all over the world go there. It's a week-long conference. Same type of thing, only bigger. And I've gone to 2, and I found them amazing. And I've met some of the most amazing people. And what was great about that group, Joseph, was there's tons of diversity in there. I've met people from Alabama, the southern states, city and town clerks, And down in North Carolina, the city and town clerks, they don't run the elections, the county does. Like in Florida, the counties run them. Up here, we run them. So it's a different group. And there's tons of diversity. I've met people from Africa, I've met people from down south, all nationalities. And those are my favorite. Unfortunately, I have to kind of be careful on those because those happen during our town meeting, our annual town meeting. So I have to, this year, I'm not going to, I'm not going to go because we have town meeting, but I'm hoping to get to another one. And the one I really want to go, the two I want to go to is, I know it sounds funny, Little Rock, Arkansas, and Calgary, Canada. Those are the two I want to go to. And they're in a
Right.
couple of years.
Now, I know the designation of the Massachusetts Institute of the, Massachusetts Justice of the Peace Association. That means that you're able to perform weddings and other things. So let's talk about that particular role, and maybe even tell folks who may be interested out there that they may want to become a Justice of the Peace and perform wedding ceremonies.
Well, our good friend, God rest her soul, Joni Spicer, took pictures of me marrying my first couple. And so how that all came about was my previous boss, Amy Akel, she was a Justice of the Peace, but she said to me, Stephanie, you've got to become one because we have so many. And if I'm not here, you'll be my second and you'll marry the people. And I have met some of the nicest people marrying them. And what you have to do is Google Justice of the Peace in Massachusetts, and there's an application and you have to get references. And you have to check with the Department of Justice of the Peace who maintains the listing. And what they'll do is they'll let you know how many you have in your town where you live. It's not where you work, it's where you live. Town clerks and city clerks can automatically become one because that's part of our job. But if you're in the office, like I want my senior clerk to become one because I feel that if I'm not here and someone comes in, and say if I'm on vacation and someone wants to get married, she can marry them. So she lives out of town. So her town is full. So she's waiting. So if someone doesn't renew or whatever, then she can apply. You have to do it through the town where you work. But a Justice of the Peace, you can swear people in, you can marry people. It's really a great designation. And I'm quite happy that I did it.
So, that's, we're coming down to a few minutes and I'm going to I got to check because if I go over again, I'm going to be in trouble with my great executive producer. So I'm up here I look down because I'm trying to make sure that I have my time correct from when I started. But in a few moments that we have, any parting thoughts of things that you'd want to communicate to our viewing audience about what you do, how you do it, what type of assistance and support that you can get in the town. I always ask all of the department heads, okay, this is your opportunity to say, look, when I get to town meeting, I know what the town manager has said or the board of selectmen, but this is what I want to do. Well, I haven't been taken up on that by anyone yet, but I know you're bold and bodacious, Stephanie. So therefore, you might be my first. So what might you want to leave with our viewing audience?
Well, I was like, I'll tell you, I will help anyone. Even if it doesn't have to do with my department, I will research. If you need something, people call us for everything, and I'm more than welcome to help. I love my job. I've trained my staff to be like that. We go above and beyond. So if you need something, if you need recycling stickers, you can come to us. You don't have to go to the DPW. If you have a question, then where do you get a plot plan? You can call us and we'll direct you to the right department. My mentor is Jean Fleming, retired town clerk from Stoughton, and this lovely woman, Ann Quirk, she's the town clerk in Barnstable. They instilled in me customer service. You go above and beyond. You try to help everyone. I want everyone to know that our office really is the hub, and I believe that. And I love my job. There's a position open in my department for assistant town clerk, apply. You know what? Even if it's not your thing, come and apply and get the interview experience. You get interviewed in front of a panel. We ask questions, and then we go through the resumes. Apply. It's not going to hurt anybody. you know what I mean? It's if you don't get the job, that's okay. You got the interview experience. You got something positive out of it. I am a leader. I am not a boss that drives. I want everyone to be cross-trained in my department so that they can help everybody. And when you're a leader, you like I said to Joseph before, I'm a leader. I want to make it so everyone knows everything. So if there's a job out there for someone and they want to go for it, absolutely, I would stand behind them. Do I want to lose my staff? No, but I want to make it so good in here that they don't want to leave. That's my goal. I am not, I think I'm an awesome boss. You know, I would like more staff, but budgets don't allow that. So I have wonderful part-timers in here, seasonal, and they're crushing it. And I'm very proud of my workers. And I hope that when people come to my department, that they see that.
Well, Stephanie, I just think I'm glad that we had this interview and an opportunity to have this discussion because one of the beliefs we have on SMAC and particularly Community Forum is to let the citizens know exactly what our government does. There are a lot of people, they can go through town and have no clue because oftentimes they don't have an opportunity to interact and don't have a reason. And so it's a matter of knowing that you're there, et cetera, is always a good thing. I know we're coming to the end of the program, but I do want to speak about, I just want one piece that I would like to cover because I see I have a little bit more time, but I wanted to talk about, there's a role that you play at town meeting, and we know town meeting is coming up, and there's a role I can recall when I was in town meeting, the town clerk is there, helping the moderator in many, many ways. Talk very briefly about that particular process. We have about 2 minutes or so that I would like to have you just talk about that process, the town meeting process.
What the town clerk does in town meeting is you assist the moderator, you keep the minutes of what happens at town meeting, and then you let him know who wants to talk, how long the person's been talking, you time them. It's kind of like the deputy moderator. I like to say that. I'm not, but I am, kind of thing. In town meeting, and sometimes people want to know what happened on this particular vote. Sure, no problem. Let me look it up. Again, the paper is the record, but all the information will be up online so that people wouldn't have to call. They can just go up online and look. Town meeting is a very unique, very, very unique group. And I say get involved. You need to know what's going on in town, and you need to know what's going on with your money.
Well, Stephanie, this has been great. I want to congratulate you on getting the permanent position as the town clerk. I said this to Roy earlier, and he told me not to say it, but as I say, when I have the microphone, I can get it. Folks, Roy had a birthday recently, and he had his wedding anniversary. So when you see him, well, when you see his wife, tell her in terms of God must have blessed her for those 50-something years with Roy. But I will attest that he is a great guy, and I've enjoyed my association with him serving as a host on this particular program. I want to thank him and the staff of Stoughton Media Access Corporation who have allowed me to do this. Mike Hammond, the director or the general manager for SMAC, and the other staff that assists with this, or Rob and others who help with the editing, but they don't have to edit the program much like this one, Stephanie. We do such a great job, you and me. But again, I want to thank you. Please say hello to Scott for me, and definitely, hey, when you want to get ready for the June program, get in contact with Roy, and maybe we'll do a program to push them and encourage people to vote. So take care, Godspeed, and I'll see you around town.
You bet you will. Have a great day. Right. Thank you for having me.